The human brain might be come up with the idea that it's good to have a sort of ivory trinket and ivory knife and fork, and therefore we want some of that, and tough on elephants if we have to kill them all.
It's again about understanding, and you know, so many people I've spoken with in China, for example, and they honestly, they have believed that elephants shed their tusks each year like a deer with its antlers, or they believe they come from elephants that have died a natural death. They've been told that, so they believe it. And so it's a question of education. We have our youth program right across mainland China, and even as we speak, they're just starting this campaign of, you know, don't buy ivory, it's causing blood, and these animals, you know, they're intelligent, they're wonderful, they're wise, they live many, many years, strong family connections, just like the apes.
Doctor, I'm sorry, in a way you're preaching to the converted, but I want to hear your responses in the sense that we can be educated to behave differently. And in your researches as a scientist, you also saw that other part of human existence. You say that chimpanzees are extremely volatile, that chimpanzees are capable of walking out and killing. Yeah. They're aware of the ability to eliminate like species. Isn't that always going to be with us despite this education of which you speak?
Well, if you believe, as Louis Leakey believed, and actually I do too, that at one time there was an ape-like, human-like creature ancestral to the apes and to us. And, you know, if we say, well, chimpanzees are capable of violence and aggression, so are we, so maybe that common ancestor also was capable of violence and aggression, so we've brought this with us through our long evolutionary pathway. Therefore, war and violence is inevitable. But think of the main difference between us and apes and other creatures is this explosive development of the intellect. So we can and are capable of, and mostly do, control our biological instincts. We don't go around hitting people in the street, not normally. We might feel like it, or even say, I could kill him, but we don't usually mean it. So we can control our basic biological differences, and it's when the head and the heart meet and we move along the road to morality and spirituality that I think we can achieve our true human potential.
I'm going to evoke the word progress. Isn't the price of progress what we're having now? If we're going to have factories to produce whatever we want, isn't progress the downside that certain things are going to suffer? Why not let those things be animals?
Well, you're talking about material progress, and I'm talking about a different kind of progress, because we know if we continue the route we're following, just destroying the environment to give ourselves more and more of this, that and the other, as our populations grow and as poverty increases, you know, this is not sustainable. None of it's sustainable. And so we've lost this ancient wisdom that, you know, that says, well, this decision we make today, how will it affect our people generations ahead? Now we say, how will it affect the next shareholders meeting, or me now, me right now? So, you know, we have to get back to thinking in a different way. It was Mahatma Gandhi who said, this planet can produce enough for every man's need, but not for every man's greed.
Are you therefore talking about an interconnectivity between educational programs? Because you've got GRASP, there are these little efforts. I'm sure Mahatma Gandhi also said if you put in a teaspoonful of sugar into the ocean, it will be less salty. So this idea of incremental wisdom, as a messenger of peace, because this is another of your titles, what does a messenger of peace do to educate the entire world? Globally, not just in little bits and blobs.
The reason that Kofi Annan asked me to be a messenger of peace for the UN, and that Ban Ki-moon just endorsed that, is because of our youth program, Roots and Shoots, because this is involving young people in projects to make this world a better place, projects they choose, that they care about, one to help people, one to help animals, one to help the environment, And throughout the whole is this theme of we must learn to live in peace and harmony with each other, between cultures, religions, nations, but also between us and the natural world.
Is there something to be said about this impinging on us as Kenyans? Are we part of your program? Are we doing something noble to enhance the cause?
There are. I mean, you know, Doug Kress, who runs GRASP, he's right here in Kenya. Linus, who runs our youth program, Roots and Shoots, in Kenya, he's one of the most dynamic, dramatic young leaders that we have. So I find that these incredible people with these indomitable spirits are everywhere. And if you just encourage them, empower them, listen to them, and say, yes, you're right, you can do it, then they start inspiring others. And you get this grassroots thing. I mean, Roots and Shoots is in 133 countries now. That's amazing.
Politics. Again, I'm appealing now to you as just a human being, as a wise mama wetu ambao ameishi miaka mingi, and you have wisdom. Where does the politician come in here when we talk about the whole democratic process and we go to vote for the leaders that we have, and then they disappoint us greatly?
Yes.
Because some of the initiatives that you're working for are being destroyed by politicians on a whim.
Absolutely, they are. But you see, my goal, and you always have to, I say, if you reach for the stars, you might get to the moon. If you reach to the moon, you might get to the top of Everest. So I reach for the stars and say, we're working for a critical mass of young people going out to be the next teachers, parents, doctors, lawyers, politicians, who understand that, you know, if we really do care about the future, we have to make tough decisions today. And we keep blaming politicians. Well, if I take politicians in, let's say, the US, you know, they go into politics and they have some really good ethical views, and they're trying to make change. But if they don't have at least 50% of their electorate behind them to support them in a change which might mean everybody's tightening his belt a notch, then they either go on pushing for something which means they won't be re-elected, or they change.
The wise person will also, like yourself, become a teacher. You must have, Doctor, dealt with the whole notion of disappointment, things not quite going your way, because you're soldiering on, you're continuing, but there must have been some hard knocks. What was the response to that? Would you evoke any? Or,
well, I think
as you climb Everest, you know, there'll always be enough oxygen?
Slip down. Well, I think the point is that I seem to have the right sort of nature to cope with these disappointments, and the Bible talks about girding your loins and going out and carrying on, and I just feel I'm not going to give up. And you know, sometimes looking back and thinking, I know why that didn't work, it wasn't the right time. Of course, if it had happened then it would have died. Now I've kept on fighting for it, and now is the time. So there's, as long as you don't give up, if you believe in the idea.
Right, the evocation of the Bible and earlier on of spirituality with this material world, these notions are under siege, to put it euphemistically.
Yeah, they are. They are, and you know, that's fine. I don't go around preaching. I'm not a practicing Christian. I do know the Bible. My grandfather was a parson, and the Bible has some beautiful language in it and some lovely ideas, like the Quran, you know. So
you're suggesting that the human spirit might invent its own spiritual religion, totally anthropomorphic, man-made?
No, I'm not suggesting that, because especially out in the forest, which is where I love to be, I just get this enormous sense of some great spiritual power that's all around, is bigger than me, and which gives me strength. And I don't promote this, I don't go around talking about it, but I feel it and it gives me strength.
We have to end with a question that is very sort of vast and all-encompassing. Where to next, as in this ascent of Everest and the moon and reaching for the stars?
Well, I think really for me, you know, I'm nearly 80. I think for me the thing is to soldier on and to try to grow the programs that I know are successful. And I think for me basically, you know, travel as much as I can. I can't travel much more than 300 days a year, but to inspire others, to inspire the youth, to encourage them, to, you know, to see these programs that I see working so well, growing and stretching out, and other young leaders inspiring others, and it's happening. So I just have to go on pushing it as long as I possibly can, and that's what I shall do.
Dr. Jane Goodall, Dame of the British Empire, conservationist and UN Messenger of Peace, thank you so very much for coming on the JSO interview.
Thank you, John.